Have you ever wondered why some people command respect without demanding it? Why certain individuals seem to possess an invisible magnetism that draws others to them, yet they remain mysteriously untouchable? They don't chase, they don't beg, they don't explain themselves endlessly. Instead, they simply exist in their own space, and somehow the entire world reorganizes itself around their energy. What if I told you that the secret lies not in what they do, but in what they refuse to do? Not in their availability, but in their deliberate unavailability. Imagine if you stopped being the person everyone could count on for everything. If you stopped answering every call, responding to every message, solving every problem that wasn't yours to solve. What do you think would happen? That's the power we're talking about today. When you master the art of not being available, you reclaim something most people have given away without realizing it: your sovereignty. People are accustomed to accessing you whenever they need emotional validation, entertainment, or solutions to their problems. But the moment you withdraw that access, everything shifts. Those who took you for granted suddenly realize they don't know how to function without your constant presence. Carl Jung understood this deeply when he said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But becoming who you truly are requires stepping away from who everyone else needs you to be. So ask yourself this: how much of your life is actually yours? How many of your days are spent responding to other people's urgencies, emergencies, and emotional demands? Maybe it's time to discover what happens when you stop being everyone's solution and start being your own priority. Because when you stop being available to everyone, you become available to yourself, and that changes absolutely everything. You've been programmed since childhood to believe that your value comes from how useful you are to others. You were taught to be helpful, accommodating, always ready to lend a hand or an ear. Society has conditioned you to think that being constantly available is a virtue, a sign of being a good person, a caring friend, a devoted family member. But here's the truth that no one wants to tell you. This constant availability has turned you into an emotional commodity. You have become a resource that others consume without thought, without gratitude, and without reciprocation. Every time you drop everything to help someone else, every time you sacrifice your own needs to meet theirs, you're teaching the world that your time, energy, and peace of mind have no value. Think about it. When was the last time someone asked if you were available before dumping their problems on you? When was the last time someone checked if you had the emotional capacity to handle their crisis before making it your emergency? The answer is probably never, because you've trained everyone around you to believe that you're always accessible, always ready, always willing. This creates what Jung called a false self, a version of you that exists purely to serve others' needs, while your authentic self suffocates in silence. You become so good at being what others need that you forget what you need. You become so skilled at solving everyone else's problems that you ignore your own. But the most dangerous part of this pattern is that it's addictive, not just for others, but for you too. You become addicted to being needed because it gives you a temporary sense of importance, of purpose, of being valued. But this is an illusion. Being needed is not the same as being valued. Being useful is not the same as being loved. The people who constantly demand your availability don't love you. They love what you do for them. They love the service you provide, the problems you solve, the emotional labor you perform. And the moment you stop providing these services, many of them will disappear from your life entirely. This is why learning the art of unavailability is so crucial. It's not about becoming cold or uncaring. It's about becoming selective. It's about understanding that your energy is finite, your time is precious, and your peace of mind is not negotiable. It's about recognizing that saying no to others means saying yes to yourself. Carl Jung spoke extensively about what he called psychic energy, the mental and emotional force that drives everything we do. Every interaction, every response, every moment of attention you give away depletes this energy. And here's what most people don't realize. This energy is not unlimited. It's like a bank account, and most people are constantly overdrawn. Every time you respond to a text immediately, even when you're busy or tired, you're making a withdrawal. Every time you listen to someone complain about the same problems over and over, without making any changes, you're making a withdrawal. Every time you say yes when you mean no, just to avoid conflict or disappointment, you're making a withdrawal. And what happens when your psychic energy account is empty? You become irritable, anxious, resentful, and exhausted. You start to feel like you're living someone else's life instead of your own. You begin to lose touch with your own desires, your own goals, your own sense of self. Jung understood that people who are constantly available to others are not generous. They're unconscious. They haven't learned to distinguish between their own energy and the energy of others. They absorb everyone else's emotions, problems, and demands as if they were their own. But when you master the art of unavailability, you learn to protect your psychic energy like the precious resource it is. You become conscious about where you invest your attention, your time, and your emotional labor. You stop being a sponge that absorbs whatever energy others throw at you, and you become a filter that only allows in what serves your highest good. This doesn't mean you become selfish or uncaring. It means you become wise. It means you understand that you cannot pour from an empty cup, that you cannot give what you don't have, and that depleting yourself to fill others is not noble. It's self-destructive. The people who will be most disturbed by your newfound unavailability are exactly the people who have been taking advantage of your availability. They will accuse you of changing, of becoming cold, of being selfish. But their reaction tells you everything you need to know about the nature of your relationship with them. If someone only values you when you're available to serve their needs, then they never valued you at all. They valued your function, not your being. And recognizing this truth, as painful as it might be, is the first step toward authentic relationships and genuine self-respect. Now, let's talk about one of the most insidious forms of energy drain that most people never recognize: emotional manipulation through guilt, obligation, and false urgency. The manipulators in your life, and yes, they exist, even if they're family members or close friends, have mastered the art of making their problems feel like your emergencies. They've learned to push your buttons, to trigger your guilt, to make you feel responsible for their emotional state. They know exactly what to say to make you drop everything and rush to their aid. They've turned your compassion into a weapon they use against you. Jung called this psychological invasion, the way some people unconsciously project their inner chaos onto others and expect them to manage it. These people don't want solutions. They want someone to absorb their anxiety, their frustration, their fear. They want you to carry the emotional weight they're unwilling to carry themselves. And here's the crucial insight. When you make yourself constantly available to these energy vampires, you're not helping them, you're enabling them. You're preventing them from developing their own emotional resilience, their own problem-solving skills, their own capacity to handle their life's challenges. By always being there to rescue them, to listen to their complaints, to solve their problems, you're keeping them emotionally dependent and stunted. You think you're being kind, but you're actually being codependent. You think you're showing love, but you're actually showing fear. Fear of disappointing them, fear of losing them, fear of being seen as uncaring. True love sometimes means stepping back and allowing people to face their own struggles. True kindness sometimes means refusing to enable someone's dysfunction. True strength sometimes means being misunderstood by people who have become accustomed to using you as their emotional crutch. When you master the art of unavailability, you force others to develop their own inner resources. You stop being their emotional safety net, and they have to learn to create their own emotional stability. Some will rise to the challenge and become stronger, more independent people. Others will seek out a new person to drain. And that's perfectly fine. Your job is not to be everyone's therapist, life coach, problem solver, or emotional support system. Your job is to live your own life with integrity, purpose, and self-respect. Your job is to become who you truly are, not who everyone else needs you to be. This brings us to one of Jung's most powerful concepts, the shadow. The shadow represents all the parts of ourselves that we've rejected, repressed, or denied in order to be accepted by others. For many people, their authentic desires, boundaries, and need for solitude have been pushed into the shadow because they learned early in life that these things were selfish or wrong. But when you practice unavailability, you're actually integrating your shadow. You're reclaiming the parts of yourself that you've sacrificed for social acceptance. You're acknowledging that your needs matter, that your time is valuable, that your energy is sacred. This integration process is uncomfortable because it goes against years of conditioning. You'll feel guilty at first. You'll worry that people will stop loving you if you're not constantly available to them. You'll fear that you're being selfish or uncaring. But here's what Jung understood. The fear of being unloved for who you truly are is what keeps most people trapped in inauthentic relationships and unfulfilling lives. The courage to be potentially rejected for your authentic self is what separates those who live with integrity from those who live in constant compromise. When you stop being available to everyone, you discover who truly cares about you as a person versus who only cared about what you could do for them. This revelation can be painful, but it's also liberating. It clears your life of false connections and makes space for authentic relationships. The people who remain in your life after you've established boundaries and reduced your availability are the ones worth keeping. They're the ones who respect your autonomy, who value your well-being, who understand that healthy relationships require mutual respect and reciprocity. The practical art of unavailability. Now, let's explore the practical art of unavailability. How to actually implement this life-changing practice without becoming isolated or alienated from everyone around you. The key is to understand that unavailability is not about building walls, it's about installing gates with selective access. First, you must learn to delay your responses. In our instant communication culture, people have come to expect immediate replies to their messages, calls, and requests. But this expectation is unrealistic and unhealthy. You are not an emergency response service for other people's non-emergencies. Start by waiting before responding to messages. Let texts sit for a few hours or even a day before replying, unless it's a genuine emergency. This simple practice will begin to reset people's expectations about your availability and give you space to consider your responses rather than reacting impulsively. Second, practice the power of no without explanation. You don't owe anyone a detailed justification for why you can't or don't want to do something. No is a complete sentence. I can't make it doesn't require a 3-paragraph explanation of your reasons. The more you explain and justify your boundaries, the more you invite others to negotiate with them or make you feel guilty for having them. Confident unavailability is stated simply and left alone. People who respect you will accept your no without demanding explanations. Third, create sacred time that is completely yours. This might be an hour in the morning, an evening each week, or a full day on weekends where you are unavailable to everyone except for true emergencies. During this time, you don't answer calls, respond to messages, or engage in other people's dramas. This sacred time is not negotiable. It's not something you give up when someone else wants your attention. It's your time to recharge, to reconnect with yourself, to pursue your own interests and goals. Protecting this time is essential for maintaining your psychological well-being. Fourth, learn to recognize and interrupt the guilt patterns that have been programmed into you. When you start to feel guilty for not being available, pause and ask yourself, whose emergency is this really? Am I responsible for this person's emotional state? What will happen if I don't respond immediately? Most of the time, you'll realize that the emergency is not actually urgent, that you're not responsible for managing another adult's emotions, and that nothing terrible will happen if you maintain your boundaries. The guilt is just a conditioned response that loses its power when you examine it consciously. Fifth, surround yourself with people who model healthy boundaries. Seek out relationships with individuals who have their own lives, interests, and emotional stability. These people won't drain your energy because they're not looking for someone else to complete them or solve their problems. When you spend time with psychologically healthy people, you'll notice how different it feels. Conversations are balanced, support flows both ways, and there's no pressure to be constantly available or to sacrifice your well-being for theirs. Jung believed that true psychological maturity involves what he called individuation, the process of becoming a whole, authentic individual rather than just a collection of other people's expectations and demands. Practicing unavailability is a crucial part of this individuation process. As you become more unavailable to others' constant demands, you become more available to your own inner voice, your own dreams, your own path. You start to rediscover interests and passions that you may have neglected while you were busy being everything to everyone else. You begin to remember what you actually enjoy doing, what goals you want to pursue, what kind of life you want to create for yourself. This self-discovery is impossible when all your time and energy are consumed by other people's agendas. The art of unavailability also teaches you about your own worth. When you stop giving yourself away freely to anyone who asks, you start to understand that your time, attention, and energy are valuable commodities that should be invested wisely, not squandered carelessly. This shift in self-perception is profound. You stop seeing yourself as someone whose primary purpose is to serve others, and you start seeing yourself as a person with your own legitimate needs, desires, and boundaries. You recognize that your life belongs to you first, and any energy you choose to share with others is a gift, not an obligation. But perhaps the most transformative aspect of mastering unavailability is the way it changes your relationships. When you stop being constantly accessible, you force others to bring their best selves to interactions with you. They can't just dump their problems on you and walk away. They have to be more thoughtful, more respectful, more reciprocal. The people who can't handle this shift will gradually fade from your life, and that's perfectly fine. They were never really interested in a genuine relationship with you anyway. The people who remain will treat you with greater respect and appreciation because they understand that access to you is not guaranteed. You'll notice that conversations become more meaningful, that people are more present when they're with you, and that the overall quality of your relationships improves dramatically. This is because scarcity creates value, and by becoming less available, you become more precious to those who truly matter. Jung often spoke about the importance of solitude in psychological development. He understood that being alone with yourself is not loneliness. It's an opportunity for deep self-reflection, creativity, and spiritual growth. But this beneficial solitude is only possible when you've mastered the art of being unavailable to constant external demands. In our hyper-connected world, true solitude has become a rare and precious commodity. Most people are so afraid of being alone with their thoughts that they fill every moment with noise, distractions, and other people's voices. They never get to know themselves because they're never quiet enough to listen to their own inner wisdom. When you practice unavailability, you create space for this essential solitude. You give yourself the gift of silence, of reflection, of simply being with yourself without the need to perform for others or manage their emotions. In this space, you can hear your own thoughts, feel your own feelings, and connect with your authentic desires. This connection with your authentic self is what Jung called the ultimate goal of human psychological development. It's about becoming who you truly are rather than who others need you to be. And this transformation is only possible when you have the courage to disappoint others in order to honor yourself. The secret that changes everything is this: when you stop being available to everyone else's agenda, you become available to your own destiny. When you stop being controlled by other people's expectations, you become free to create your own life. When you stop being everyone's solution, you become your own salvation. This is not about becoming cold, cruel, or indifferent to others' suffering. It's about understanding that you cannot save everyone, that you're not responsible for everyone's happiness, and that the best way to help others is often to help yourself first. Think about it this way. An airplane's safety instructions tell you to put your oxygen mask on first before helping others. This isn't selfish, it's practical wisdom. You cannot help anyone if you're unconscious from lack of oxygen. Similarly, you cannot truly support others if you've depleted your own psychological and emotional resources. The art of unavailability is about putting your own oxygen mask on first. It's about ensuring that you're psychologically healthy, emotionally stable, and spiritually aligned before you extend yourself to help others. When you operate from this place of fullness rather than emptiness, your help becomes truly valuable rather than codependent. As you master this art, you'll notice that your whole life begins to change. You'll have more energy because you're not constantly depleting yourself for others. You'll have more clarity because you're not confused by everyone else's problems and emotions. You'll have more peace because you're not constantly in crisis mode, responding to other people's emergencies. You'll also discover that you become more attractive to others, not because you're more available, but because you're more centered, more confident, more authentic. People are naturally drawn to those who have a strong sense of self and clear boundaries. Your unavailability becomes a source of magnetism rather than rejection. This might seem counterintuitive, but it's true. When you're constantly available, you appear desperate, needy, and lacking in self-worth. When you're selectively available, you appear confident, self-possessed, and valuable. People respect what they cannot easily access, and they take for granted what is always available. The final secret of unavailability is that it teaches you the difference between being alone and being lonely. Loneliness is the pain of being disconnected from others and from yourself. Being alone is the joy of being connected to yourself so deeply that you don't need constant external validation or stimulation. When you master the art of being unavailable, you master the art of being complete within yourself. You stop looking to others to fill the voids in your life, and you start filling them yourself. You become your own best company, your own source of entertainment, your own emotional support system. This doesn't mean you become isolated or antisocial. It means you enter relationships from a place of wholeness rather than neediness, from abundance rather than scarcity, from choice rather than desperation. You connect with others because you want to, not because you need to. Carl Jung understood that the journey to becoming a fully individuated person, someone who is truly themselves rather than a collection of others' expectations, requires periods of withdrawal from the collective. It requires the courage to stand alone, to be misunderstood, to be judged by those who cannot comprehend authentic self-respect. But those who have the courage to walk this path discover something extraordinary. They become unshakable. They develop an inner stability that cannot be disrupted by others' moods, demands, or criticisms. They become truly free because they are no longer controlled by the need for external approval or the fear of external rejection. So I ask you now, are you ready to reclaim your sovereignty? Are you ready to stop being controlled by others' expectations and start living according to your own values? Are you ready to disappoint some people in order to honor yourself? The art of not being available is not just a social strategy, it's a spiritual practice. It's about recognizing the sacred nature of your own time, energy, and attention. It's about understanding that you are not a resource to be consumed by others, but a unique individual with your own path to walk. If this message resonates with you, if you're ready to stop giving yourself away and start choosing yourself, write in the comments, "I choose my sovereignty." Let's see how many people are ready to master this life-changing art. Remember, the secret that changes everything is not about becoming more available to others. It's about becoming more available to yourself. When you master this art, you don't just change your relationships, you change your entire life. And that transformation begins the moment you decide that you are worth protecting, worth honoring, and worth choosing above all else. Thank you for watching, and remember, your unavailability is not a rejection of the world, it's an embrace of yourself. Make sure to subscribe for more insights on living an authentic, empowered life.